Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another horror review. I seem to be on a roll lately. Here's another one which I wasn't too sure about, and it turns out I've actually really liked. So, uh, today we're going to talk about Malevolent. It was released in 2018. It looked, the single word title, the poster, everything else just looks like a generic horror movie. This one actually turned out to be really good. When I read the premise and going into it, I was expecting goofy jump scares, all that kind of nonsense, generic characters, no depth to them. I was expecting another remake or rehash of The Conjuring, because they became popular. Now, a couple of issues with it, but not too much. On the whole, I was surprised and I enjoyed this movie. So, basically, what it is, we've got a pair of siblings, Angela and Jackson, who are in Scotland and they're at university. Well, Angela is anyway. Jackson seems to be a bit of an idiot. He's one of these guys. We've all met them. And we've got Dale in the chat. Do you know, one of these days, because it's usually Dale, Adam, and Steve appear like one at a time. Maybe one day I'll get you all together in the chat and you can actually talk to each other instead of just the mirror into the ether. Just seems to be the way things schedule, and I never get all my buddies together at once. But say Levy, that's the way it goes. But great to have you on board, and everyone else is jumping in as well. More than welcome. But yeah, let's start off. These are folks. They're paranormal investigators, but they're frauds, and they're openly fraud about it. And they're Jackson. He's kind of the Saul Goodman type character. He's the trickster, the con man. He preys on people, preys on their grief. And we kind of see him doing this with his sister too. Now, he had the potential just to be a black and white, wooden plank of a character, but actually there is a bit of a depth to him. And as the story goes along, we kind of see that both Angela and Jackson have shared trauma of their mother basically being committed to an insane asylum and killing herself, and it's affected them both in different ways. Angela feels guilty about it, and Jackson has this kind of loathing for people, and it's broken them both in different ways. I was just trying to study psychology. I just failed in class because she's basically got sucked into Jackson's whirlpool. And like I said, we've met these type of people. They can't get their act together. They're always get rich quick schemes. There's never enough to satisfy them. And we see this play out because he's in debt. He's got loan sharks coming after him. He just can't help himself. It's a form of compulsion. I don't know. I don't know if they ever get, because these type of people are a funny one. They don't fall into a nice, neat little category. Like, they're not an addict. If they were an alcoholic, a drug addict, or a gambling addict, maybe they can be identified and helped. They're not a complete narcissist either. So they don't fall into the traits, but there's plenty of these people about. You could offer them the world, and they would say, Jackson's talking about needing to make money. They were doing this, it comes out they were doing this while they were living in America. Oh, the connection's really good as well, because sometimes these people just get planked in the countries, but it turns out that their grandparents are from Scotland, actually in the area. Their mother's Scottish. We don't meet her really. Sort of flashbacks and stuff, but her mother met her, moved to America quietly, without telling anybody, met her dad, had them. So there's actually a bit of thought went into the story rather than the usual, oh, let's just plank some characters here with weird accents and throw them about the place and give no explanation or tie it together. Moving between countries is a big thing. And people, how they end up in certain places, that part of the story can actually build into the narrative. And this is what I'm talking about. These two had the potential they could have just made them random foreign students in a place, and they could have given them no backstory whatsoever, but they didn't. They actually give them a bit of grounding in the area, and that plays and everything goes on, because then we've got their grandfather, who it seems to be that only Angela tries to build a sort of relationship with. Yeah, it did have a great storyline, and that's why I'm saying I'm surprised, because for all intents and purposes, it looks like a generic jump scare esque horror movie. You know what I mean? It just had that potential, but once you get into it, you've actually a plot to follow. Because this could have easily devolved into woo boogie, oh, we're pretending to find ghosts name and find a real one, which essentially what the plot is. But even then, there's a bit more to it. But yeah, we've got these two, and we're seeing this whole point of grief flowing out, and Jackson's on a downward spiral, and he's going to take anybody he can with him because he's a broken man, and he keeps telling Angela he loves her, but he doesn't. This man is incapable of love because he's a broken man. So you don't hate him, but you should, because in a lot of other movies they've played this type of character and they haven't done it well. This guy will give him a bit of depth and reason, and you actually see him fighting against himself within this to a point. So until the point where everything comes to light, and then he kind of he redeems himself, but doesn't last too long. But yeah, that whole interplay goes the whole way through this movie, which is good because it gives you a bit in between the jump scares and them doing what they're doing. We've got Elliot and Beth are the other two. Beth is Jackson's girlfriend, and we see that he's effectively played her the same way as he's played Angela. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. It plays. We see their relationship slightly different, but she recognizes the two, and this is all good interplay. And this is what I'm talking about the story having layers, because if you don't care about the protagonists, why are you going to care what happens to them? You know what I mean? Slasher movies are fine if they're meant to be goofy and fun, but you can still have a serious slasher movie if you care about the protagonists. And this is the point I've been trying to make about movies, and what the difference between enjoying one and being invested in the plot, and then just popcorn flick that you watch through, or being sorely disappointed. It's still doable, even up to 2018. They're still able to make movies with 3-dimensional characters. But yeah, Elliot he's kind of the weakest character of the lot. He's the tech guy. He holds a flame for Angela, but he hasn't told her about it. Yeah, there's not too much to him. Even having a bit of a, he has a chance of a bit of redemption, and he messes it up towards the end. Yeah, so out of the four of them, he's the weakest character of this group. We start them off. They're calling an older fella, and that's how you get confused, because you don't really get the full set. And they're in a house, so you hear this guy with a Scottish accent, and these two Americans and a Londoner, and you kind of think, this is a bit of a mess. What's going on here? But it's just setting the scene of what to do with the paranormal investigations. And then when they finish and step out of the bar, we get the whole story and timeline and how they're together, and it all makes sense, which is why I'm surprised, because after the first scene, you're thinking, oh God, here we go. Then after that, it all kind of falls into place very quickly as well, because there's nothing worse. Like yesterday's movie I was talking about, it took nearly half an hour to get into the movie. Everything, but once you did, it was brilliant. This one doesn't take as long; it just gets you straight into it, and everything's explained, and you still get a bit more layers and a bit more depth of what's going on. So they then get a phone call. Something opens up with Angela after this one. This one, she's not happy about. It's rattled something in her. She's not feeling it anymore. She's been happy to go along, but back to when talking about their relationship, she realizes that with her brother, it's never going to end. It's never going to be enough. I think it's after the first house, and that's a good point to jump into the story. They were getting on, I guess, in America before they moved to Scotland, and Jackson was living in London for a while, and he was doing the same thing. So he's repeating the pattern, and now it's come to roost that all four of them are together. And that's what I'm saying about Elliot's character. He's kind of the bystander in the four of them. The other three have a connected history, and he's just kind of there, which not really much of a point, because he was an alright character. He served his purpose. So I can't really complain too much, because we've got 3 strong characters, slightly weaker one, but the story, makes it kind of useful. It's an interesting choice. I've set this back in, by the looks of things, early 2000s, because they're still using analog phones. There's not the mobile technology. They're using camcorders, videotape, so it makes me kind of think they haven't quite figured out how to use modern technology with ghost stories, because part of the plot also relies that they can't call out that sort of thing. It'll be interesting moving forward how stories incorporate today's technology and moving forward. Because look at a Hammer horror movie. Obviously, that would be defeated with the technologies portrayed in this film, and wouldn't have a hope. So there seems to be a bit of a lag between movie makers, in particular horror, and using modern technology. People just takes a minute to wrap their head around without looking and sounding cliche, if that makes sense. So, in the context of this movie, the time setting is kind of relevant and useful to the story. It would have been tricky otherwise, but there we go. They then get a phone call from Mrs. Green, and Angela picks it up first, and wants him to come up. She wants the voices to stop. She wants the crying to stop. She wants it to be quiet again. Angela says they're too busy. She gets some sort of, spider sense tingling sort of thing about it. We've then since found out that Jackson is up to his ears in debt with loan sharks who are going to basically kill him if he doesn't pay them back. So that's don't get involved with loan sharks, kids. Don't get involved with it. It might look easy, or it might seem like a quick fix. And those bloody payday loans, stay away from those. They're just legalized sharks. There's no quick and easy way to fix your problems, essentially. And this movie kind of showing that. You go for the quick fix, and it's never going to satisfy you, or it's never going to be enough. But there you go. But it's useful. So after we see Jackson's encounter with the loan sharks, and Angela's starting to have troubles at university because she's missing so many classes because she's following her brother around, who doesn't seem to care that she's about to throw her career away. You know what I mean? That's what I said. He's in the downward spiral, and he doesn't care who he takes with him. He then picks up the phone again. Mr. Green rings a second time, and he admonishes her, gets torn in there. And that's when we start to see the trauma and the plot and the things come together, because effectively, if he doesn't get the money, he's dead. And once again, quick fix, one job, last job, the usual tropes. This is the final job, I promise. After this, we'll move forward. He's never going to move forward. That. It's just that sort of character. You could give him £1 million and then blow through it within a month and still be needing more. There's just people like that. The important thing is that you recognize them so they don't destroy your life. That's just my personal thoughts on it. But it's good how horror movies can teach you about life, eh? But there you go. So they go up to the house. It turns out it's famous. It's been in the news. I should have actually rewatched that, but so her son was found where there was 5 girls. That's where I need to. Yeah, she was a foster parent. There's 5 girls. They're all like tied up, murdered. They were placed in a circle. There's a whole big thing happened about it. So when they're going up to this house, they know it's a scene of this. Angela's freaking out. She's like, don't do this, don't do this. Jackson's like, yeah, we'll have to. Beth and Elliot are just kind of side characters at this point, just to get there. They have no emotional investment either for or against. So they're going along with it. The real battle is between the siblings in this, and that kind of plays out really well. And that's what I'm saying. I'm surprised. This could have been a generic just a generic flick, but it wasn't. They actually managed to have a bit of depth, and it's actually the struggle between them. And then it comes out, their grandfather's drinking heavily, even for a Scotsman, just to get a stereotype in there. But after his daughter's death, it's affected the whole family. I can't remember what happened to the father. Something happened to the father. Can't remember. Sorry. Only watched this earlier as well. But yeah, it's all affecting them in different ways. When they go and they start setting up, Jackson tries to spiel with Mrs. Green, and she's straight on. You call her Celia Irony. She's a British actress, really long-standing, well-known, and she's got one of those serious tones about her, and you just know she's not messing about. She has that kind of look, and she sees through Jackson immediately, which actually becomes relevant later on. But yeah, he's giving a spiel, and she's just like, catch a grip. Is this what you normally do? And then you start to wonder, okay, she knows he's a con artist. What's the end game here? Why are they here? And that's when the cogs start ticking about, oh, there's something deeper going on. But as they're going through, and we saw this at the start, they have this kind of spiel where Elliot follows Anza around with the camera. And actually, the first one, it could have been like done really badly as if she, that was the acting, but it wasn't. She was so disinterested. It was just the first guy was so full of grief, but she's like, is anybody here? I give you permission to leave the house. She really doesn't care. And that's where the whole conflict comes up, because he caught on that she wasn't. So it was actually part of the plot, which was cool. Started to do it this time, and then she sees something, and then everything changes. And that's where this movie really goes in this road. Now, I'll get to a certain point, like I do with movies, like I'm not spoil it, because, like I said, you should, if you haven't already, check it out. But yeah, something else starts happening. She starts to see the visions of the girls. They're running around. They're trying to lead them places. The first thing that happens is they're leading them to a stairwell. Elliot falls through, breaks his leg. Now, that's when you start asking, okay, are these ghosts malevolent? Are they doing this intentionally to cause harm? Is it the ghost can't communicate? The usual thing we have with ghosts, you know me, you've heard my ghost speech 100 times, what I think about them. But this time there's something more. I think it was just an unfortunate thing that he fell through in this case, because they were leading them down anyway to the right place. We'll start to find out they were actually kept in a basement / dungeon type area. Things start to unfold. I'm going to say that they were actually, death was almost a release for them, but there's a reason they're still hanging on to the house. Ghosts need a reason. There's trauma or unresolved issues, even though it's not as if they haven't been discovered. There's a whole case. Yep, ghosts are stupid. But in this case, they aren't, because I think the falling through the stairs was one thing, a plot device to incapacitate Elliot to move the plot forward. But I also think that it was maybe designed to throw us off, because we're used to the stupid, malicious ghost who can't communicate without hurting people. I think that was slightly meant to throw us off, considering the way the plot goes. And this is where I'm starting to fall into spoiler territories and want to kind of check myself. So yeah, it was just an unfortunate event, which became relevant later on. But yeah, we'll start to find out there's more to this story than was even discovered 15 years prior, when the murders were reported and the police were investigated. I'm guessing Mrs. Green lost her fostering license, or wasn't allowed to foster children anymore. She's rattling about, but then the plot starts to ramp up, and we start to find out that more's going on. And this is the point where I'm going to stop it, or stop talking about the plot, because I'm going to give away spoilers, and I don't want to, because there's a beautiful series of twists and turns in this, which are actually written really well, and figures both human-wise and spiritually wise. So the two tie together. So it isn't a con, it is a supernatural movie, and the elements all come together brilliantly. And we also see the relationship between Angela and Jackson come to a head and move to another level. We find out more about their own family and their mother. So we find out that her mother was actually had the sight, and that's what drove her insane. Think Stir of Echoes. And what was the other one? Not Sixth Sense. Almost Sixth Sense, not really Sixth Sense. There's another famous one, Supernatural, where nobody believes them, and it turns out that they've got it. But think Stir of Echoes. It's something that has to get awakened first, and then that passes down the line. Lineage. Another really good movie. You have to check that out. That was a while ago, but yeah, it's that sort of thing. The ability is awakened. I'm gonna see this whole story play out, and then it all just comes to everything happens and comes to a conclusion, and then it's left open for her journey. I don't think this would suit a. I don't know about Hereditary. No, Hereditary was different because that guy was chosen as a successor for the demon. But I'm talking about psychic abilities that were passed down, and the parent was misunderstood and driven themselves. In Stir of Echoes, it's Kevin Bacon's character. He's the one that gets it awakened, and he almost drives himself mad. But then it's passed down to his son. There's another story which is escaping me right now. Very similar tropes. Not exact replica story, but that where the parent, had driven themselves insane by not being able to, by having the sight and not being able to cope with it, and then the child has a better understanding because they've seen their parent go through it, and then they have a greater understanding of what it's about. This kind of plays out here. Angela understands, and then Jackson understands towards the end of the movie, because it all comes out. He gets a sight as well, and they realize then that their mother was, had the ability, and that's what led to the traumatic events, because the grandfather didn't believe. It was all poppycock, all that kind of stuff. It's plays out like that. That's gonna bug me now. I'm gonna be thinking later on about what the other bloody movie is and what the reference here. But there you go. That's the joys of doing these live. You just oh yeah, some random thought in my head. Not scripted, just but there you go. Yeah, this finishes off really well. Good plot, good beats to it. It could have been, it could have been a generic movie, but it wasn't. There was so much more to it, and really enjoyable. So there you go. There's my review. Really enjoyed the movie. I recommend you check it out. And yeah, as always, if you have similar opinions, different opinions, leave them in the comments. We're going to have a chat about it. Do all the likey, typey, clicky things that help the channel grow. Be much appreciated. Let's get words out there. Tomorrow there won't be a live stream because we've got our next horrific tale, as you know, on Fridays. Burnt Chapel, I think, is next, by Cody Exelberger. God, I hope I'm not butchering his name. I'm terrible, me with flipping pronouncing things. But yeah, that's tomorrow. So I won't do a live stream tomorrow because horrific tales coming out. Keep an eye on the channel for those as well. We've loads going on. We're busy. I'll do another couple of movies over the weekend. We've got one plan for next week as well with another special guest. And there you go. All good and fun. And until next time, folks, keep it creepy, keep it horrific.